It's bad. It's literally just My Dark Vanessa if it was shite.
No, literally.
And I love My Dark Vanessa.
And I read this before I read like.
I know.
I read this before My Dark Vanessa too, and I was like, "This is crazy."
You go on Reddit, and there's people that are talking about her plagiarizing, and honestly, I would not be surprised because
I have seen
the overlaps between these two is very eerie. It's very fucking weird. It's not good.
Hello and welcome to another episode of our Book Talks, where we talk about books, books drama, and our bookish opinions. But today is a little bit different because we'll be doing our Literary Liberation yearly wrap-up. For more content outside of the podcast and our book talks, you can find us at Literary Liberation around the internet. And we are currently raising money for the Northern Gaza Fund, where there's a link below to donate. I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at 10CBR on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host, Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
Great.
We did it. We've made it to the end. This is our third year.
We're filming this at the last possible moment, like we always do, because this has to go up tomorrow, and we're filming this on the 31st, because I don't know, it's been kind of peeving me off where you go on like Threads and Instagram and people are already posting their wrap-ups at like the beginning of December. Like, there's not a whole other month to read.
Excuse me, there's like, I hate that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people are just trying to be like so on trend that they're willing to sacrifice the truth for... It really frustrates me though, because I know I read a lot, but maybe people are slower readers and they aren't reading that many books, but I don't know. It's suspicious. But we're truthers. We're truthers here. It's noon Pacific Standard Time on the 31st, so this is as good as it's gonna get, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna get white girl wasted tonight.
It's 3 p.m. where I am too. Not even. It's the latest possible it could be. I still do have to read today to keep my streak though. But I made sure, you'll see, but I have stopped like committing to fully finishing books a couple days ago, because I was like, I'm finishing now. I'm not adding any more, because now my goals will be set in stone, basically.
Let's get into the statistics, because people always wonder how we end up doing it, how we make it happen. So this is like the best time where we can kind of break down everything, and you can see how much we read per month, what we're reading, what we like, the pace, everything. Like all of the nitty gritty details is what we're going to get into. So right now on the screen, we have our table of contents, everything we're going to go through. There's like 43 slides in this. So
we'll have chapters throughout on YouTube. I don't know if on Spotify you could do chapters, but we will try to have timestamps. So if you only care about certain stuff, that'll be in the chapters for you to find. So our first chapter will be book statistics. So my reading goal this year was 60 books. I flew past my goal at 75 books this year, so it's 125% of my goal. And so last year I read 55 books, so this is a 36% increase for me personally this year. And then I read 28,830 pages this year. Compared to last year, I only read 18,696 pages. So that's a 54% increase this year. So I just read more way across the board this year compared to last year.
And my reading goal, I don't know, it's hard to set a goal. I set it at 150. I didn't know what was going to happen this year. I read a lot, so it did end up going past it. But I was reading a lot of like slower things. I thought I was going to hit 200, but I did not, because I was reading a lot of shit. But this was also, I exceeded my goal by 125%, which love when we're matching. Love that.
Wow. And then
ignore that. That's the statistics. I didn't update like what I read. I think I read less this year than I did last year.
Okay.
And then the pages read, I read 54,573 pages as of like right now. That's where I'm at. Which I also think, I don't know if that's an increase or a decrease. I should have looked.
Well, that's what I'm saying too. What we always talk about too is that I've read about half the same, a little bit more than half pages read by you, but then I have not read half the number of books that you read.
Yeah, I think I read like 50 pages. I think I read less this year than I did last year.
So I just because
Yeah,
I'm
it's
reading much
different.
longer
Which is
books.
interesting is yet last year, so I read 207 books, right?
So you have
52,543 pages. So more pages, less books. I was reading a lot longer books this year. So
mm-hmm.
give you some sort of idea, like the vibe of the year, I guess, was long books.
These are my moods read. So Storygraph, originally this used to be a pie chart, but Storygraph changed their graph throughout the year, like a couple months ago. So now this is what it looks like. But so I read 38 Dark Book. That was my number one mood, which is 6 more than was last year. 33 Adventurous Books, was just 7 more than last year. 24 Tense Books, which is 9 more than last year. 21 Emotional Books, which was 1 more than last year. And 17 Reflective Books, which is 9 more than last year. And I'm pretty sure like my top 5 moods were pretty different. Besides the dark and adventurous, those pretty much stayed the same. But all of the other like 3 are different than what they normally are. So this was a bit of a different year for me personally. Sorry, Mariah's graphs
Which is
killed
funny.
me.
I just if you aren't watching it, I just copy and paste. Kristen takes so much time to make all of these nice graphs, and I realized I cropped it funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, my moods compared to last year, like last year I read a lot more like dark. Adventurous was second, emotional was third, lighthearted, and then tense. Here we have a lot more like reflective and informative because I read a lot of nonfiction. I imagine is like what it was in lit fic and classics. That's kind of the vibe. I was a moody reader last year. This year, a little bit more adventurous. And I think that's wholly to blame for Carl. I'm blaming Carl on that.
Yeah. So this is my pace and pages. I read 51 medium paced books, which is 12 more than last year, 22 fast paced books, which is 8 more than last year, and 2 slow books, which is the same as I read last year. And then my page numbers, I read 13 500 plus page books, which is 7 more than last year. I read 23 less than 300 page books this year, which is 3 more than last year. And then I read 39 300 to 499 page books, which is increase of 10 books in those categories. Everything I'm pretty much up in. Like I read a lot more this year, which I mean makes sense because I read like 20 more books than I read last year. So it is going to be, everything's positive for me. And I think I'm reaching, I've been growing exponentially every year for my reading goals. And I think I'm about to start flattening out here soon.
You peaked. So mine, I've read a lot more slower paced books this year. Actually, technically, it's the same percentage now that I'm looking at it. I'm really like getting into the nitty gritty. Last year, I read more fast paced books. So I read 78 fast paced books this year, 85 medium paced, and 16 slow paced. I don't know how these statistics are figured out on Storygraph. I don't know what constituted if it's just a consensus, but that's just what it says. So of all the books I read, that's kind of the breakdown of it. The majority of the books that I read were less than 300 pages. I tend to gravitate towards less pages per book. I don't know. Big books are scary. I did read
Okay.
more 500 500 plus page books because we read like all of the Carls and those were really long, and then I read a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more on the like medium pace, which was like 300 to 499. So there's 53. So 119 300 page or less, 53 300 499, and then 15 500, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
15
So
500 page books.
So you only read 2 more 500 plus page books than me, though.
Yeah, that's like the whole thing is like people don't realize is some people will read like 5 books a month and they'll be like really long, and then other people will just read
Mm-hmm.
like really short novellas, and it'll be people. This is the whole thing. This is because we're truthers. We're trying to explain how people read so many books per year, and
Yeah,
this is
well,
a
because
fantastic anecdotal example of how that can be.
you have to think about it too. Because the way that these book trackers work, they are tracking like a 30-page like short story the same as the 600 plus page Carl that we read. Like those are counted as the same. Like they're both counted as a book on these reading trackers. So I don't think, not necessarily saying that people that are reading a lot too are not reading long books either. I mean, as you can see, a good chunk of Mariah's, obviously it's less than half, but it's over a quarter, like almost 40% of the books that you are reading are over 300 pages, you know?
And I think what people don't realize, like, I read a lot of manga this year too. So I think, all in all, I think you actually ended up reading more like proper books, whereas I read a lot of like mangas and graphic novels and stuff to like mix it up.
Yeah,
So
I
I
don't
think
read
you took
graphic
the cake with
novels or
this one.
manga
Yeah.
personally, but maybe next year that'll change. Who knows? So my format is I read 59 fiction books this year, which is 10 more fiction books than last year, and then I read 16 nonfiction books, which is also 10 more nonfiction books than last year. And my format was different. I read 13 audiobooks this year that were strictly audio only. And that's 12 book increase from last year. I only read one audiobook, just straight audio. And then I have 33 print books, which is one more than last year, and then 29 digital books, which is 7 more than last year. Which is, I'm glad I'm getting through my physical TBR, but I want to know how many of these I was reading, like that I bought to read. I think next year I'm going to try to track that because I want to know how much of it is actually like physical TBR versus like me buying it because I saw it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm buying it because I'm like, oh, we're going to read this for the podcast or something, you know?
Oh, so like the books that exist outside of like what we do. Because a lot of the times we'll try, at least one of us will try to buy the book, especially if one of us really wants it, so that we can,
Mm-hmm.
market it a little bit better, because there's the paperback industrial complex. You have to have a physical copy of the fucking book in order for it to get seen on Instagram, and it's really frustrating. However, we don't always have the money for all of that. So between the two of us, we'll like take turns
Yeah.
picking out books that we like, and then like Kristen owns all of the Dungeon Crawler Carls, and I don't own any of them. So any of those pictures
Yes.
you see are from Kristen. But that was also
Yes.
something we were doing for the podcast. It's a very interesting thing. Like when we think about like me and Kristen, not just if people are listening, like how we end up like buying books. I know I thrift a bunch of like the classics and like the banned books because I know we're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
like get to those at some point. So I was like, oh, I need those to have preemptively. I don't know. I'm gonna buy that standing floating bookshelf, and I'm putting all of the literary liberation books on it. It's gonna go like right here. I'm
The
gonna
ones that we
order it.
specifically
Like
review for the podcast. Well, because
yeah, so
it's
everything we've reviewed is gonna go on it, and then like this will just be my books.
Well, because we also do like plan way in advance kind of what we're reading. We're kind of usually like 3 months out. Like we read them like within the month, but like we know what we're reading in March for the podcast, right? And so we will go out. Like I will, if I'm out and about and I see like a physical copy of one that we're planning on reading within the next couple of months for the podcast, and it's on sale or it's a good deal, I'm like, oh well, I might as well get it because I know I have to read it, and I prefer reading physical books. I know, sue me. I feel like that's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I usually prefer reading physical books. I usually do try to pick them up if I see it out, you know?
Yeah, we'll
But
see.
I
I think
think
that's we'll get to the end. That is like one of my goals, is to read more of like the books on my shelf.
yeah, I want to go through and
Crazy.
look to see what I haven't read physically.
So I read 75% of the books I read are fiction, and then 25 were nonfiction, which was just like such a nice little
That's like a perfect
graph
chart.
right there. Perfect. So 47 of them were nonfiction, 138 were fiction. And then when we
So
break
you only
down the
read
actual
47 real
format,
books.
yeah.
Just kidding.
I 46 of my books were audiobooks, 65 were print, and 76 were digital. I really fell in love with audiobooks this year. I found it much more, I don't know, relaxing. I just do other things, or a tandem read. Most of them are nonfiction, I'm gonna be honest. Most of them are nonfiction. Kind of helps me figure out like what's worth buying a physical copy for, or like annotating, as if I kind of like vet it, because sometimes I've been burnt. I've
So
been
did
burnt by
you
many a book.
I have a question then. So you counted your tandem reads as audiobooks? Because like for my graphs, so I have like 13 were audiobooks, but like I also listened to all the Caros, but I counted those as print books because I tandem read them with the
I
physical
counted those
copy.
as print or digital, depending on like what I had. Because if I am like
Okay, so
looking
you
at the
didn't count
words
those
on the
as audio?
page, it's no. The
Okay.
audio are just audio. Like I didn't have anything else.
You didn't have the
However, this
book
is
with you.
like where, yeah, is where it's gonna get weird. Is like I have like audiobooks and physical copies and digital copies of like everything, but then sometimes I pick something up later and I don't know how to like fix that in my
Yes.
story graph, because you can't, if I read a book like Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti, I've read it physically twice and I've listened to it as an audiobook once. But you can't like fix that on Storygraph. So I hope they update it so you can
I
like
think you kind of
each
can
edition. I just can't
whenever
figure it
you're
out on my
reading
own.
it, I think you can track it like that way, like whenever you're like updating your pages and stuff. But then if you want to track like what you own versus what you don't own, I think you'd have to tag it yourself and make it its own graph if you have the pro plan.
It's really annoying. But yeah, that's kind of like where we're at with tracking. And then I think I'm approaching a point. I've seen other people do this where they're not like tracking like book stats or in like reviews and star reviews, which I think is such an interesting idea.
Never, nope,
When we
not
get
me.
to the review, when
Nope.
we get to the reviews, we'll discuss it a little bit more. I know we're close.
I love my stats and everything. So these are my top genres. Fantasy, I read one less fantasy book this year than I did last year. Science fiction, I read 21, which is 18 more science fiction books than I read last year. Literary books, which I guess is just like literary fiction. Again, these are all Storygraph stats, so whatever they're tagging them for. I read 7 more of those. And then dystopian, I guess I didn't read any dystopian books last year, but I read 9 this year. Um, and my top 4 of last year were fantasy, young adult, romance, and historical. So my top 4 is like completely different this year than what it has been in the past. I think fantasy will always be my number 1, but it's interesting to see how these other ones have changed for me personally. Usually I read a lot of young adult.
Yeah.
This is not a year of young adult for me. Here's Mariah's. Oh, and she. Oh my god. We can tell who does the. Well, I wonder who makes this PowerPoint.
Well, so romance is always like my number one genre. Science fiction though was really popular this year, and mainly because of like the book club. We did a ton of science fiction books. I don't know what the other ones are. I'm willing to bet by the quantity there that it is alien romance books. I bet those got included in the science fiction category.
Yeah.
Fantasy is always a big category. Like usually it's like romance, sci-fi, fantasy. Uh, what else? Manga. I'll have like a politics or a history. Like it's always the same shit. And horror. I read a lot of horror books, but pretty much the same. The only thing that changed was like instead of political books, I have history, which I spelled wrong. So 49 romance, 49 science fiction, 48 fantasy is like a clear split along those lines, which is so interesting. 22 horror books, 38 manga, and 19 history. So there you go.
All right, so these are my books and pages. So I have compared to 2024, compared to 2025. Obviously, I read overall more this year, but I think what's really interesting is that you can see whenever I go into a book slump, I think even in 2023, not that I track that, you can see like right around June, I hate reading from like June to like September ish. I never want to read very much. And I think that's so interesting. I never know why. I just hate reading in the summer, I guess, because then you can see like later on in the year and even in the beginning of the year, I start off pretty well. It's just like the middle of the year, I hate reading, I guess.
Maybe you hate summer.
My birthday's in the summer. I love my birthday, so no.
Well, your birthday is in a season, so I don't know.
My birthday's in summer, so that means summer is my birthday. Like that's how that works.
That's how
I
it
like
works.
summertime. I like being outside. I like the warmth. I never want to read then. I don't know why.
Well, I pretty consistently I like reading in the summer. I have the opposite problem. I do sit outside a lot. I will say wear a lot of sunscreen and I lay out in the sun. And I love reading. I love being outside and reading. That's like when I read like the most physical copies of books that I have too. I think that's why, as I love being outside with a physical copy of a book and kind of like detached from technology. Whereas if I'm inside during the winter, I have my phone, I have games, I have whatever. I'm just like more distracted. Where if I'm out in nature, it's great. So pretty good. Usually like July is my month. March is when it starts to get warm again, and like November, I'm trying to like meet my goal. So I have to grind everything out. So that's kind of where the breakdown is. I think what's my lowest month? September. I don't know. Kids were in school. I think that's
What
why
was my
it was so
lowest
much lower.
month? I think my lowest month was September. Or no, my lowest month was June this year. But September was also low too.
You went on a cruise and you got really sick. That was what
Yes,
happened.
I
Like
was
you
sick in
were
September, and
down.
then September also is the music festival. that we go to for like a whole weekend, a whole like 4-day weekend. So we're usually pretty busy then. But yeah. Okay, my most read authors, pretty unsurprising if you watch any of the podcasts. Matt Denman, obviously number one. We read all of Dungeon Crawler Carl this year. Tracy Dion is the author of the Legendborn series. I read all 3 of those this year as well. Read V.E. Schwab duology, which is why that's there. I read 2 of the Murderbots this year, and then obviously I read the Earthseed duology, which I don't typically like gravitate towards the same authors. I feel like I kind of read like one from each every year. Like I kind of mix it up. I think unless it's a series. That's the only time. Like literally like all of these are series, which is why they're here. I'm not reading multiple standalones from multiple authors though, which I think is kind of interesting.
That is really interesting. I'm curious how that's going to look in next year if we change up or I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Well, it depends on what we read too for the podcast. If we're picking authors, then I imagine we'll be reading those.
I have the opposite problem. I mean, Kentaro Miura is the author of Berserk, so that's why that's on there. Urza and Victoria Aveline, they both write alien romance, which I will say, Victoria, I don't know what the fuck she's putting in those books. It is the best. The best. The world building is incredible. At the romance, like she does a good job. Her website, if you go on her website, her page inlays are absolutely beautiful. I don't know. It's straight to my vein. And then obviously I have like Matt Denman. Ruby Dixon always comes out with a couple of books. Jinsei Kataoka. I think that's the author of Dead Man Wonderland. I have a bunch of like authors on here that are like manga. And then obviously Gramsci. I read quite a few Gramsci books or and essays. But he's good. I get like people like him. Emma Ham, Dahlia Davies, I don't. They're fine. There's just monster romance. I
Yeah.
don't know. If somebody puts one out, I'm like, okay, I'll dabble, I'll sample, but sometimes they're shite. Which, no offense, Dahlia, they're just not good.
Hello? Oh, there it goes. So these are my ratings spread for the year. I actually had the most 5-star reads this year than I have like any year. My average rating was 3.87, which is 0.11 higher than it was last year, which typically my 5 stars are not very high, but I guess this year it was. I don't even know. I guess it's mostly because of Carl. I know a couple of those were 5 stars, and then I read a lot more nonfiction this year too, and I know I've been specifically like picking nonfiction that I knew I would enjoy too, because I think with reading nonfiction, there's no reason for me to waste my time reading stupid stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Like I
that's why
will
a lot
never
of
pick
mine
up
are.
a self-help. Like I will never pick that up because I know that'd be a waste of my time and I would hate it. Versus like fiction, it's so all over the place. That's where most of these like lower ratings are all fiction. I think probably the lowest nonfiction I rated this year was probably a 3 too.
Well, here's mine.
Oh, you had more
I
5
did.
stars too.
I read a lot of 5-star books. Less 5-star books this year than the previous year. I think rating demographics, which I was looking at on my store graph on my phone, I had a 3.83 average last year, whereas this year I have a 3.71, so it's a little bit lower.
So we're opposite this year, kind of. Like my rating is higher this year than it was last year, and yours is the opposite.
I just didn't have anything that like really like there was a couple bangers that really like blew me away, but then the rest were kind of like sitting in that like what 3.5 to 4.5 zone. Like a ton of my books kind of fell into that area. There's one that doesn't have a rating. I'll fix that later. It's a 5-star book. I don't know why I didn't rate it.
What was
so it would have changed it a little bit. The short history of transmisogyny, for whatever reason, I didn't rate it on here, but it's great. Recommend it.
Average rating 3.71. So my DNFs. I DNF'd 10 books this year. These are all 10 of them that I DNF'd. I probably won't talk to them too much here. Some of these I tried to hate read. Some of them I was interested in them, and then I put them down and never picked them back up again. So they're done. Some of them were just too much for what I was looking for in a book. I think on my personal like BookTube channel, I think I was gonna do a video where I talk about all these books that I DNF and why I DNF them. So if you're interested in that, you can go over to Tens TBR and check that out. But yeah, and that's 6 more than last year, which
And we
is
need a
good.
round of applause because Kristen doesn't DNF very often. And
No, this is
I'm
my
very proud.
year of DNFs. Like I like considering last year I DNF 4, and I think the year before I only DNF like 2. So
I wonder if this is also why your reviews are so much higher, is because you just like
I didn't waste my
force
time
yourself.
finishing these. Well, because I know like Silver Elite, if I finished that probably would have been like a 0.25 star. I imagine most of these, I know like that's the only one that I can guarantee for sure. Most of these I would imagine would have been at least a 3-star or 3-star. Like some of them I could see being a 3-star, and some of them probably around 2-star too. Like I imagine like most of these probably aren't horrible. They just weren't what I was looking for, you know. Here's Mariah's DNFs. Oh my god.
I DNF 15. I should have DNF'd more, if I'm going to be honest. I have some random ones. I tried to reread Marked by PC Cast this year. It's exactly as I remember it. So I started, I was like, I remember all of this. So I probably could pick up where I left off and I would be fine. I tried reading The Wild Robot. I watched the movie. It's cute. There was a couple like nonfiction that I tried reading, which was like they thought they were free. People love that book. I don't get it. Kristen also DNF'd it. I don't know what it was about it. I was expecting a lot more, but it felt like apologia.
Yeah, it felt too sympathetic for like the people that were, you know, just letting Hitler do whatever he wanted.
It's like, why wouldn't you just read Still Life with Bones or Jakarta Method? Or like any book talking about like different fascist regimes.
To be honest, I don't think I DNF'd at 14%. I don't know how far
I didn't make it very far either, because it's like narrative nonfiction, so it has like that element where you're kind of experiencing their lives. It almost feels like a diary or something, and I was just very uninterested in that book, which that is like the resounding theme for some of these nonfiction books, like The Art Thief. I just didn't like the style of the writing.
I love The Art Thief.
Same way.
I know you love it now.
I know you love The Bookshop by Evan
I gave
Friss,
it 4 stars. I wouldn't say it's like amazing. I thought it was really informative. Like I learned a lot about book, like Amazon and the way that they're affecting like book things and other like small bookstores and stuff that I don't think is discussed online. And
there was just the Benjamin Franklin, all of I just
that
don't
was a
fucking
big
care.
chunk.
But
once you get past that,
I think
once you get past that, it's pretty good. But it is interesting because it does talk about like a lot of like left wing bookshops and stuff and how they were attacked by like fascists and stuff like that, which you didn't even get to. So
I know it was not. They should have just started off with that. Hope in the Dark, though, is one of the ones I would strongly like not recommend. I see it a lot. I think I got it for free on something, and it's a lot of like anti-communist shit in there. So would not recommend that. The rest of these, like the Master and the Margarita, it just like wasn't the vibe for right now. I was like, I can't do this right this second. So it's not a hard D enough. I'd pick it back up. Same with the Sea of Tranquility. I would read that. I just wasn't in the right headspace.
Zionist though.
No. Well, never mind.
Maybe. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But did she write that other book? What's that other one? There's like another book that I thought she wrote that's like popular. That's like a TV show.
I don't know. Wow.
I think so. I want to say
my fucking day. Station 11?
Yes, that one. That one's a TV show. I'm pretty sure the main character is like named like Kirsten or Kristen too. But I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that said she was a Zionist. So, but don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, like Utilitarianism by John Stuart Mills was another like soft DNF. I was trying to read it and it was kind of just like gibberish. He's spitting facts, I'm sure. I just was not mentally at that point where I could read philosophy. Got to be in the right vibe. Anyways, You can go to the next slide.
Moving on to our favorite books of this year. So in third place for me, we have The Strength of the Few, which is technically like the hierarchy duology because I did reread The Will of the Many this year as well. and I still love it. I really do love this duology. We've done full episodes on these. You can check them out. I am obsessed with both of these books. I could not put them down. I read this one in like a week. I read the first one in like a week too. But I do really enjoy this duology. So, but I gave it to this one because technically The Will of the Minis a reread. The next book, these are my favorite fiction books. I don't know if they even said that. But then my next favorite book of this year is Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. I'm literally just like everybody else whenever, um, everybody I feel like talks about this book and talks about how great it is, and they're absolutely right. I couldn't put this down. I read this with my partner. We both absolutely adored it. I'm so excited for the movie next year. Like I can't even like I'm will be sat. I'm simply like I'm already mentally at the movie theater. What's that Io Adibri quote where it's like they asked me to leave, but I'm simply too seated. That's me for the Project Hail Mary movie right now. And then my number one read this year, technically, I guess, is The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, but like this is a placeholder for Carl as a whole because if I were to like rank all of them, like Carl technically would be like my top three, but I couldn't do that because I wanted to talk about these other books. But obviously, Dungeon Crawler Carl is such a good fiction novel. Me and Mariah, we've done the podcast on all of them. We've ate every single one of them up, and it's just a goated series. End of story. And then now we have my favorite nonfiction books. We have Our Prison's Obsolete, which is technically a reread because I think I read this in like 2020 maybe. But I wanted to reread it again because we read Changing All Stars earlier this year, and I felt like this paired really well with it. So I was rereading it, and it's still really good. It's still really informative. I think Angela Davis has such a good analysis on the prison industrial complex and the carceral system. It's a very good. It's a very short read too. I listened to the audiobook whenever I read it this time, and it's literally like the audiobook is like 5 hours long. Like there's literally no reason for anybody to not listen to this. You put it in 1.5 times speed, you put it in 2 times speed, this is the length of a movie. Like I'm telling you, it's so quick, it's so easy, and Angela Davis writes so accessibly that like I think this is something everyone should read. My number two book, which is Mariah's DNF, The Art Thief by Michael Finkel. I listened to this also as audiobook, which is how I've been consuming most of my nonfiction books. I'm somebody, whenever I was like a teenager and like early adult, I loved BuzzFeed Unsolved. And this feels like a BuzzFeed Unsolved like episode, like a long standing one. And so I really do like true crime. And I do think that this is like I think most true crime is obviously not acceptable content to consume, so I don't do that. But this, I feel like, is mostly a victimless crime. I mean, it's art thievery, obviously. Like, you could talk about, like, the culture that is ruined from it and stuff, and this does discuss that. But I do think that this is one of the more acceptable forms of true crime that I feel comfortable consuming, because it's not like anybody's truly a victim or getting murdered and stabbed and being gloated on like that. And then my number one nonfiction book was The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I listened to this audiobook and then also tandem read some of the essays. This honestly, I don't even know how to describe this. Like I love John Green and all of his works, and this is just like random like essays. You have some about like the Hall of Presidents in Disneyland, to air conditioners, to teddy bears, to like so many different topics that John Green has like discussed and he's like researched himself and he talks about, while also like talking about himself and how he relates and how the human condition relates to these different things. There's a whole chapter on like ringo trees, and it's all very touching. Like I think John Green, like the way that he writes, obviously he is lived up, which everybody can have their own critiques of that. I know I do. But I do think the way that where he sits morally and what he has to say, I think is very thoughtful. And this is one of those books that it makes you really think, and it makes you reevaluate life and happiness and the people around you, I think. And I think this is like the closest I would ever get to like a self-help book where it's not even really a self-help book, but it's just like it has those aspects where it just makes you realize that there is goodness in the world still, you know?
That's nice. It's like a good, happy Sorry, I didn't put any of the slide animations into mine, apparently. Whoops. So my favorite fiction books of the year. In third place, I have Carl, Dungeon Crawler Carl. There's something really special about the first one, but the series as a whole is really lovely. There's a reason that we both have it on here because two people who have such different taste in novels, like we never have, very seldom do we ever have crossover where we're like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever read. Like it happens out of the blue. This series though is just so fun and lovely and wonderful, and I talk about it all the time to people, and I'm annoying about it, and I'm okay with that. Second place, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I don't know what it was about this book that I liked so much. I think about it all the time. This is one of those books. I'm not a huge rereader. I would definitely do it. I think I like the way that she wrote and how you're in one character's head a lot of the time. So it has like this like classic element, but it's so easy to read. It was just a nice reading experience. But first on the list was actually a book, one of the first books that we read this last year, and it was The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. I was very surprised. I've been chasing this high since I read this. There's just something so nice about a science fiction novel that reads like literary fiction and actually discusses politics in a thought-provoking way that I thought was interesting. Even though Ursula K. Le Guin is an anarchist, I, as a Marxist-Leninist, quite enjoyed how she talked about it. Although I don't always agree with everything that she like comes to conclusions on, the way that this is executed and how you can have conversations with people in your real life, I think is so profound. I love it. It's a very interesting read. I've not read anything like it. And then my nonfiction, third place is When the Clock Broke. It was all about con man's conspiracy theorist and the 90s breaking up by John Gans. I don't know anything about the 1990s politically.
Well, now you do.
I do now. I read this like right after I read was it Educated by Tara Westover? And she, in that book, in her memoir, talks about how her family were like so propagandized and like deluded and about like the Ruby Ridge incident with like the FBI. And this like actually talks about that at one point in this book, and it all of the politics like leading up to this point, all the different politicians, like different policies that were getting passed, like was happening with like the Democratic Party and all of it. Like this is such an interesting point of history, and I think you can see the groundwork that was laid for why we are here today. And I think it's really like it makes sense like why Donald Trump came into fruition based on like what happened in the 1990s alone. Very very interesting. If you like that type of history, I don't think everyone's gonna like it. Kristen, I don't think you would like it. Maybe just read the Ruby Ridge part, but
Okay.
just letting you know. Second place is Not a Nation of Immigrants, Settler Colonialism, White Supremacy, and a History of Erasure and Exclusion by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. I read her An Indigenous People's History of the United States earlier this year. Fantastic book. Very dense though, and whereas this one is a lot more topical, I feel like we see in the news or on social media about ICE agents every fucking day where they're doing this, and it makes you wonder, like at least it made me wonder, what is like the history of immigration in the US. And I thought this book was going to be centered around like immigration from Mexico and like the global south, and it is so much more than that. What is so wonderful about it specifically is that Roxanne is a Marxist, so you get like this bigger like critique of neoliberalism. You have a really nice criticism of settler colonialism, but she's not critiquing, like she talks about like China and immigration in the US and like the Yellow Scare. She also talks about like the Korean War and what happened to North Korea and what America did there. There's so much in this. You will be better off reading it. Like there's a lot in this. I read so much fucking history every year. I did not know a lot. Like the first bit is kind of repetitive of the first one I talked about, but so you get like those elements of like what happened to the indigenous people here, but then you're getting a lot more later on that just like exceeded my expectations. Perfection. And then Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal by Mohammed El Kurd. Parts of this book like turned my stomach. I was very emotional while reading this. I've talked about this on TikTok already, but when I get a physical copy of this book, like the whole thing's gonna be fucking highlighted. Everything's gonna be tabbed. Every line is so fucking good. The way he talks about settler colonialism and capitalism and Zionism is just so. I don't know what other words to describe this book. I'm like so fucking good because I keep saying that. But what's so great about this specifically is that the victim is done like when he's talking about what that is. He's doing it through like a philosophical lens. So this is applicable to anybody that is in an oppressed group. So it extends, like if you are an abolitionist, or if you are somebody that supports like gay liberation and queer liberation, or if you want like liberation from the patriarchy, like this, the victim, like the way he talks about it is applicable. So it extends outside of Palestine, which is really nice. It should already, but this makes it really apparent as to how. Sorry, went on a tangent.
All right, and now after we get to talk about all the books that we enjoyed so much this year, now let's get on to the worst books of the year. So in third place for me, we have Eileen. We read this for the podcast. This was a book club book. No offense, but like to me, because the book club picked this, sometimes this is why I think we chose certain books throughout the year rather than putting a poll up, because this is god awful. It is so boring. I don't even know what to say about it. Like Tessa Moshfegh, her writing style is just like so stale and boring, and I get that's what you like, but the way that Eileen's characterization is, she feels so lame, and like it like tries to be like subversive and it's not in any way, shape, or form. It's just like cringe mostly. And I understand like that's kind of the point, but it's also not executed very well in my opinion. And I watched the movie, and I'm saying if you want to consume the story, you might as well just watch the movie, because it's literally a very accurate adaptation that I don't remember anything major being cutting out, and it would only take you an hour and a half to watch that movie versus however long it would take you to read this 200-page book that is literally so dull. Like, I remember I was struggling reading this. Like, I was getting bored out of my mind reading it.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a great one.
Second place is a Mariah recommendation, Eternal Rotten Romance. Thank God this is less than 100 pages, because if not, I probably would have done something to myself. I didn't mind the horror elements. I thought that was actually fine. But my problem is with this book, sorry it's a little bit spoilery, but if you can't tell from the cover, it's about like the last survivor of a zombie apocalypse, and she's working to find a cure for zombies so that she doesn't live alone in this world. And she kind of does find a cure where she's able to like inject this into one of the guys, but it doesn't work fully. And obviously, apparently they fall in love. And what bothered me the most about this book is not even the gore. It's literally because there is no romance in this book. It has romance in the title, and I'm telling you, there's no build up to the relationship. It'll literally in the book and be like 3 weeks later, we were in love. Like, okay, I would like to see that growth. That's the whole point of a romance novel, is to see how you get from point A to point B. And they literally just took a pair of scissors and cut that path in half, and there's no path to it. It's just wanted to be a vehicle to have the disgusting gory scenes, which is fine, but don't call it Eternal and Romance if there's no romance. There's literally none. Like, no romantic elements at all. I did not believe these people were in love at all, you know?
That's funny. That's like the thing that you're fixated on. When it was like, I thought it was like fucking funny. Like, I don't know. I was reading it and it's like, what the hell? Like, I think reading some of these books that are just shite, I love to just see that somebody sat down in front of a computer and they wrote this. They had this in their fucking brains and they typed it out, published it, and then we get the pleasure of reading it. And I just find that fascinating that this is like it could. I think it would have been so much more interesting.
It could have been good
if they like had built the relationship.
It's like
between
Warm
them.
Bodies. If Warm Bodies sucked. Warm Bodies is. I like that movie.
I'm so glad I don't have anyone else to talk about it with. So part of it was like sacrificial. I had to have you martyr yourself a little bit. So now,
but it was like, it just sucked. Like the zombies. Like I honestly like maybe if it was like an actual novel, I could have enjoyed it more. But it was just a waste of my time. Like, it's 70 pages, and it's like, everything is yada yada. There's, like, time skips. Like, it's a 70-page book. Why are you having time skips, like, crazy throughout it? Like, just say what you need to say. And that's why I feel like it was just written to just be like, ooh, sex with a zombie. Disgusting. Like, okay. And then my number one worst book this year is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I feel like this is pretty obvious on why it'd be the worst novel ever. We did do a podcast episode on this book. I remember I picked this up because we read The Housemaid on the podcast, and me and Mariah were like, The Housemaid's fine. Not necessarily life-changing. I mean, Mariah really liked the first one, so, but we were like, The Housemaid's fine. I was like, okay, I need something easy to read while I'm reading really heavy books, so I picked up The Teacher. That was the biggest mistake of my life. This is the worst thing I've ever read. It's disgusting. It's got no social commentary whatsoever. It's not even that entertaining. It's just sick. And honestly, if you want our full reviews for Eileen or The Teacher, those are on the podcast and they will be linked below. So you can check those out to see how much I truly hated those. Mariah.
I also put The Teacher. I know. I don't know what happened. Listen, it doesn't look beautiful, but they don't deserve beauty. The Teacher by Frida McFadden's in my third place. It's bad. It's literally just My Dark Vanessa if it was shite.
No, literally.
And I love My Dark Vanessa. The more
and I read
think
this
about
before
it, the more
I read
like, I know. That's
I read this before My Dark Vanessa too, and I was like, this is crazy.
You go on Reddit and there's people that are talking about her plagiarizing, and honestly, I would not be surprised because
I have
the
seen
overlaps between these two is very eerie. It's very fucking weird. It's not good.
Well, because
don't
like
read it.
Fuck, it'd be one thing if she actually had like the commentary surrounding like children being abused by their teachers, but this doesn't have that at all. It's literally just like, look, this child's being abused. Isn't that crazy? And that's it.
Yeah, whereas like, and there's also like victim blaming, and The Teacher that just seems really like off-putting. People love it. If you go on Goodreads,
and then the twist at the end is actually so infuriating too. Not to spoil it, but I was like, so like you're gonna have this character be a whole like quote unquote critique of this other character, but then in the end they're perpetuating the same harm. Okay.
Yeah.
Number
not
2.
Good. Number 2 is On Tyranny 20 Lessons from the 20th Century by Timothy Snyder. He's a fucking hack. I talked to my friend who has a PhD in history, and you know what? She agreed with me. She agreed. She's like, no, he's dog shit. Nobody fucking respects him. And you know what? I was right, because all it is a bunch of like horseshoe theory incarnate. He supports like CIA-backed counter revolutions in Poland. It's just bad all around. He doesn't pay any like attention to like it's America from like 1776 to present. It does talk about like what happened to indigenous people. It's just like the American Revolution. They didn't fight for that.
Well, now the libs have been promoting it.
Don't waste your time. I know if you see it on TikTok Shop, red flag. I see it, red fucking flag. It's bad. And then first place was Bound to the Marok. What is so bad about this is that this was an AI written book. I very quickly caught on. The cover should have been it, but I have seen
the cover is like, definitely AI. Authors.
Yeah, I was like, I've seen these people, and sometimes they're okay. Like I'll read them, and I'm like, just to see like what's going on here. It was very apparently written by AI, so it has to take the first place. I do want to throw out an honorable mention because I think it would be a disservice if I didn't. But Kamala Harris's 107 Days is number 4.
Fourth place.
Because at least like it was readable.
Did you listen to the audiobook?
Yes. And I have the ebook. She does.
Okay.
Just so you know, it's exactly what you would think it would be. And the way I think that's what makes it so bad. Because if you're just reading the book, it's fine. But her, like, you can tell, like, her intentions by the lines, like, she's saying and how they're meant to be said. So you can tell, like, what's supposed to be a thing is, like, I get it. You want to run in 2028 or whatever. We get it. It's bad. Don't fucking read it.
Okay, moving on to our specifically literary liberation stats for the podcast this year. So we reviewed 36 books this year, which is 2 more than last year, which I think is specifically because we did the
Hunger Games
trilogy, so that added 2 extra books. These are our stats for the year. So we averaged out both of our ratings. And sorry I didn't make a nice pretty graph for this one. I just imported the Fable ones because I didn't know what we rated everything individually. But it was a 3.7 star average for us. Which, honestly, I think that's not too bad. I mean, that's a little bit lower than what I rated personally, but that's higher than what your personal ratings this year were, weren't they? We're about the same.
Yeah, so to come up with this, I had to take Kristen and I's story graph statistics, and then I averaged them, and then I put them on each book. and I reviewed them, and it
On
took a
Fable.
hot minute. But that was what it is. That lowest rating, I do believe, is The Teacher. If you're looking, the less than a star.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I gave it 1 star, and I know you rated lower than that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I
yeah.
gave it 0.25 or maybe 0.5 if I was feeling generous.
So I think it's funny that 4.5 stars is like our highest too, because I think that means that like one of us has like either really loved a book, the other one thought it was mid, and so then that's where it ends up being.
Yep.
Mostly, because I think most of our stuff is in the 4-star realm and 3 stars, and a lot of 5 stars between the two of us. Sometimes when I click, it don't be working. Hello. These are the genres that we reviewed this year. So 19 science fiction books, 14 fantasy books, 11 fiction, which I don't know what that means. This is just whatever Fable said, which maybe next year we look at the specific, whatever they say on Storygraph, because I do think Storygraph does have a better breakdown of this stuff. And Litfic was 11, and then horror was 5. So I have no idea what even is classified under those 11 fiction, because they were all fiction.
I don't know. I think it's like Storygraph, where like some of them are also like crossover. I'm assuming it's like a Gen Fic classic, because we did some
We
classics.
have the Litfic.
Yeah, but sometimes like classics don't. It's like Gen Fiction. It's very weird how they categorize it.
I don't know.
I just know like sci-fi is most of like the dystopian books that we read, like Parable.
Yeah.
We
Hunger
read.
Games.
I think RUR could have been Hunger
RUR
Games.
wasn't even this year, so that was literally our last review of last year. I'm pretty sure.
It was our first review of this year.
Was it?
January 9th. Mm-hmm.
Is it even on?
We read it and filmed it in 2024, though.
Oh. Well, our most read authors this year are Matt Denneman, of course, Suzanne Collins, of course, because we did all of the Hunger Games this year, and then Octavia Butler with the duology. And that's it. Everything else, all the other books we did were the only book of that author we did this year. And then here is our monthly layout of what we read and reviewed. Which we didn't necessarily read these in this month. This would have been the month that the book was posted, I think, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I had it set up, because Chris and I have read Hunger Games. So in March, for example, it has like the trilogy, which I just lumped together as one because we reviewed it as one. So that's kind of how that was situated and figured out. But the rest, for the most part, we end up reading like 2 to 3 books a month. Towards the end of the year, the like last half, we did end up reading like 3 a month because of Carl. We always had a Carl going on.
Yeah. Because we started Carl in May, so then May is kind of whenever we made sure we had a Carl getting posted every month. June, I know I was on vacation, so then we didn't post. We, like, left in a gap. But expect next year, it should be about 2 or 3 books a month still, but then we should be posting every week next month. Those are those little thingies. So here are our goals for 2025. So first off, my 2025 reading resolutions. I wanted to read 60 books. I read 60 books. I wanted to read at least 10 nonfiction books. I read, 16? So I did that. I wanted to DNF 5 books. I DNF 10, so I doubled that. I wanted to make a book journal. I did not do that at all.
I did not. Oh my god, I forgot about your book journal.
I want to do one still. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't even do it. I wanted to, and I think about doing it all the time. So we'll see. And I wanted to post on BookTube once a month. I did not do that. I posted twice last year. So yeah, but I want to read 80 books this year. So it's 5 more than I read this year. I want the 25% of them to be nonfiction, which I think technically makes it 20 of them to be nonfiction. There'd be 4 more nonfiction. But I don't know if I hit more than 80 books, then I just want the ratio to be 25% nonfiction. That's why I didn't set a specific number, because who knows if I'll even make it to 80 books this year. I want to make a book journal this year. I'm going to actually do it. I have a plan. I know what journal I'm going to be using. I'm planning that. I want to post on BookTube once a month. I have lots of plans to be doing that. I got a new camera this past year, a new microphone. I got a new editing software, so that will be my definite goal. And then I want to write a review for every book, which can be just like a one-liner thing. I'm pretty good, I think, about like putting something on there, but sometimes I just put like a star rating and then I say nothing else. I want to have something written for every book that I read. At least, whether it's 2 words, a word, a sentence, I don't care. I just want something. And then I want to post on BookTalk at least weekly on my personal account or on Literary Liberation. And those are
I think those are good goals.
Yeah. I think they're all realistic. Oh. Mariah does not know how to make a PowerPoint, bro.
I know. I'm gonna be honest. I did this like 30 minutes before we started. I forgot to do it last night. I was busy with the fable. It took for fucking ever to like go through and get it because it kept glitching out and shutting down. Anyways, my goal for last year was to read 150 books, which I did. So there's a little check mark there. My goal was to read at least 4 nonfiction books. I was so close. I hit 47.
So you needed what?
1 more.
No, because
4 times 12. More? Yeah, I needed 1 more. I was so close. But I was that's a good goal though, you know. I also wanted to write my reviews on Storygraph, which I have been doing. Thank goodness.
You didn't write anything. You just rate them.
Before, yeah, I was just rating them, but now I write a review. I copy and paste my review from Storygraph to Fable to Goodreads.
I know. I've seen some stuff without some reviews though.
Yeah, those were like when I was trying to do my whatever. Anyways, I wanted to read more physical books. I did. I read like 11% more physical books. I wanted to read 1 New York review book of the year. Here's the thing. I thought I went back and changed this to classics because I was like, you know what? I think it'd be more realistic to read at least a classic a month, which I did do. I read quite a few classics. So that's my fault for not correcting it. So technically I didn't meet that. However, my own goal in my head was to read more classics. And I did. And I'm very proud of myself.
I can't even read what these say because how you did this. Start a what?
Start a... What the fuck does that say? Hold on. Let me go to the slides.
Mariah does not know how to make a PowerPoint future
I need
reference.
to work on this like a week out next year. I said this last year too, where I was like, oh, I'm gonna work on it.
Okay, that's gonna be your 2026 reading resolutions to finish this PowerPoint before 30 minutes or filming.
Why can't I move it? Oh, start a long series. I did start a long series.
Carl.
Sorry, I put the check a little bit too big. It was Carl. That was a lot. I don't know if I'm gonna do another long series next year. I haven't decided. Maybe, probably. I'll do like 1
You didn't even change the number.
Okay, my 2026 reading resolutions is firstly is to actually take the time to do the PowerPoint beforehand, which I think I could do a lot of this groundwork. I could do it now if I'm gonna be honest. I could just like after the fact. Anyways, the one I actually put on there was to read 100 books. The reason every year I've like reduced it. This year I want to go a little bit slower. I do plan on reading a lot more of my physical copies, and I don't care. Like I read a lot. I read a lot more than like the average bear. So like I don't know. The number doesn't really fucking matter to me.
You need to get some new hobbies.
I've been working on a puzzle. I've been doing Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing.
And then you do those while listening to audiobooks.
I do. I'm sorry. I got to be locked in all the time. It's hard. I also put at least 25%.
Still my goal.
I didn't even see you put that, but it's a good like. So if I read 100, there's 25, which I think between 20 and 25% is like the best. I feel the most enriched by having it be that amount.
Well, because you don't want to read too many too, because then I feel like you're not retaining all the information. Unless they're all shite.
I don't know how people do it. Read all of One Piece. I have figured out the math on how to do this, and there's like a little over 100 volumes, and if I read like one every 3 days, I should be able to get through it.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read One Piece. Obviously read more physical books. I have so many that I've been collecting. That was like the whole thing. I don't want to buy nearly as many books. I bought a lot less books this year too. Retail specifically. I've been using my used books. But I have so many classics that I just think I need so that I can review books better.
Okay.
That's my whole hot take. So read The Count of Monte Cristo and East of Eden. Those are my 2 big classics that I plan on reading. Count of Monte Cristo is going to be like my summer read, but I'm going to have to start it in like April or
Yeah,
something.
it's
April or
big.
May. And then we're going to read East of Eden for the podcast because they're supposed to be doing a series.
Yeah,
Or
a limited series.
I don't know which one.
It's a limited series with
I'm
Florence Pugh.
excited for.
And then
and then post reviews of everything. I'm going to just
like post on TikTok.
On TikTok, I will post reviews of literally everything I read because I don't know.
As soon as you finish a book, you're posting a review.
Yeah, I think I should just do that. Like, why not?
Might as well.
It's a lot more content, and then I don't know, people can see like.
Are you gonna just keep all your reviews on your page, like all your fiction and nonfiction?
Yeah, and then I'll throw like bookish memes on the Lit Lib page. I'm coming up with like a posting schedule to make it work so that we have more content. But I think it's just mainly for the TikTok. I'll at least post all the reviews, and then anything that's like a little bit more aesthetic, like the nonfiction exclusively, is going to be a little bit more. I don't know. I just like to make it better quality. But the fiction, sometimes I just read shite, so I don't know. I can talk about it. I have a lot of weird shit that I pick up every year.
And that's it. That's our
and cut the mic.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if you had anything else to say.
No. You're good.
We've been filming this for a hot minute now. But yeah, so those are all our social medias if you want to follow us. Those are our stats. We'll be here again, same time next year.
Yeah, if there's anything you want us to read on Fable specifically, I'm working on our TBR, so if you want a little sneak peek on what's going to be there, there's a 2026 book tab. I might post it on my own Goodreads. I don't know that anybody actually follows me on Storygraph, so that would be the only other place. I'll make like a TBR on there. So if you see things and you're like, hey, you should read this. I know somebody also said that we should review One Piece. And that's also kind of like what spurred me to want to put it on there. I think we should review it in arcs. I think that's like the best way to do it. So it's like certain chapters through different chapters. There's different story arcs.
Yeah, because I don't know if I could read all of it. I don't know if that's my goal to read all of it.
If not, if I cannot hustle Kristen into doing it, I might. I got some people I can chat with and see if I can get them to do it. Maybe we could make it like a segment. I don't know.
I mean, I'll try at least like maybe the first story arc to see if it's really for me. I just don't read a lot of graphic novels personally, and I don't think I'm a super big fan.
Do the politics of it though. Luffy is
maybe
always
you can write a physical book and then I'll read it. I know they do that for other mangas.
Yeah, I don't think there's any light novels for One Piece.
Maybe we get
worst case scenario, we get you to watch the show.
I'm not watching that. What the?
Set sail for One Piece.
You're gonna get us copyrighted for singing that.
Anyways, thanks. Have a good year. Let us know what your goals are. Thanks for listening.
Let us know if you met your goals and read them. And what you read.
I'm always curious what other people post for their goals.
Yeah, what you read this year. What were your favorite books of this year? And if we should read them and review them. But I guess other than that,
make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on all of our socials. Thank you.
They're right here.
Sorry. I'm legally required to say that. So, there you go.
Thank you and good night.